Imagine you run a highly successful luxury business based in Dubai. Your clients are literally billionaires, your execution is absolutely flawless, and your brand reputation is just ironclad.
Right. You are entirely at the top of the food chain.
Exactly. But then almost overnight, you notice your primary, historically booming market is starting to shrink. I mean, the easy money is just slowing down.
Which is a terrifying moment for any operator.
Oh, absolutely. And you don't just sit around in your office crossing your fingers, hoping the macroeconomic tide magically turns back in your favor. If you want to survive, you buy a plane ticket and you go find a new market. So, welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah, glad to be here for this one.
Today, we are looking at what is essentially an absolute masterclass in strategic business survival and expansion. We're pulling our insights directly from an incredibly detailed piece published in eventmag.me.
Issue 2, right?
Yeah, exactly, issue 2. And it was written by Tatiana Presniakova, the founder and CEO of Fashion Holidays. And our mission for this deep dive is really specific. We are going to extract the exact playbook that elite businesses use to enter a brand new geographical market without having to start from scratch.
And it's such a vital skill set, honestly, because what we are looking at here through the lens of the Dubai luxury wedding market is fundamentally a macro-level lesson in proactive business pivoting.
Yeah, it really applies to anyone.
Exactly. Whether you are listening to this and you work in event planning, enterprise software, commercial real estate, or, I don't know, retail, the underlying mechanics of how you move into unfamiliar territory safely, they remain exactly the same.
Okay, let's unpack this. We need to establish the baseline reality these Dubai agencies are facing right now. The core problem presented in the eventmag.me article is that the Dubai wedding market is contracting.
Right. It's not disappearing by any stretch, but the volume is definitely shrinking.
Yeah, and the operators who actually survive these cyclical downturns, well, they're the ones who recognize that waiting for conditions to normalize is just a terrible strategy. The winners expand their geography proactively.
Long before that market contraction turns into, a 5-alarm fire for their balance sheet.
Exactly. They are effectively finding a new location to build a roof while it's still relatively sunny in their current market.
Which is the defining characteristic of a resilient business. I mean, these agencies have massive operational overhead and highly experienced teams. They know how to deliver a product to ultra-high net worth individuals.
Right.
What they lack right now is just a fresh canvas. Their clients need a new reason to spend their money.
And that search for a new canvas brings us to the destination at the center of this whole strategy, which is Montenegro. Now, if you follow European luxury travel, Montenegro isn't a completely shocking new discovery.
No, not at all. Planners in London or Paris have had it on their radar for quite a while now.
Yeah, but the dynamic shifts completely when we look at the Gulf Cooperation Council, or GCC clients. The appetite among couples from the UAE, Russia, and the broader Middle East is shifting really aggressively toward the Balkans.
And we have to look at the psychology driving that shift. It really comes down to a very specific, very potent type of client fatigue.
Client fatigue, I like that term.
Yeah, because when you are dealing with couples from the UAE or Russia in this specific wealth bracket, you're dealing with people who have already done Italy.
Right, they've been there, done that.
Exactly. They have vacationed in the Maldives for years. They have likely attended half a dozen spectacular multi-million-dollar weddings in Tuscany or along the Amalfi Coast just in the last 5 years alone.
Wow, yeah. So they're just bored.
Pretty much. At a certain level of wealth, status is no longer just about how much money you can spend. It's about access to the undiscovered. They are actively hunting for a destination that offers uncompromising luxury, but hasn't yet been completely saturated by their peer group.
It's the constant search for exclusivity. I look at it a bit like the film industry. Imagine Lake Como is this massive, sold-out blockbuster movie.
Right. Okay.
It's undeniably beautiful, has a massive budget, but there are lines everywhere. It is incredibly expensive just for the sake of being expensive, and literally everyone you know has already seen it.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. But the Bay of Kotor in Montenegro, on the other hand, is that brilliant, highly exclusive indie film that everyone is just starting to whisper about.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, and the eventmag.me article specifically points out that the Bay of Kotor offers significantly less traffic than Lake Como, much more favorable pricing models, and my absolute favorite description in the entire piece, A quieter quality of light.
A quieter quality of light. That is incredibly evocative. But what's fascinating here is that aesthetic appeal alone doesn't actually close a B2B deal.
Right. Aesthetics don't pay the bills.
Exactly. The challenge with targeting an indie film destination is that exclusivity often comes with a massive operational trade-off. Usually, when you go somewhere undiscovered, you are forced to compromise on the physical infrastructure.
Yeah, you end up dealing with subpar hotels or inconsistent service.
Right. Or a total lack of premium vendors. But what makes Montenegro structurally viable for these Dubai agencies is that the venue inventory actually matches the aesthetic promise.
And the article backs that up with some serious heavy hitters. I mean, we aren't talking about asking a Dubai billionaire to rough it in some boutique hotel with spotty Wi-Fi.
Definitely not.
The text lists properties like Aman, Sveti, Stefan, One&Only Portonovi, Mamula Island, and Movenpick Teodo.
Those are massive names.
For anyone operating in the luxury space, those brand names act as a direct proxy for trust. Like, if Aman and One&Only have committed hundreds of millions of dollars to develop properties there, an agency immediately knows the underlying infrastructure can support their demanding clients.
Because those specific properties can go toe-to-toe with absolutely anything in the Mediterranean. They do not represent a compromise for the client in any way.
Not at all.
And from a business perspective, because Montenegro as a whole is still scaling up and isn't suffering from the crippling over-tourism of Tuscany or the south of France, the venue availability and the pricing structures actually give the agencies a competitive edge.
Which is huge for their margins.
Right. They can deliver a world-class luxury product without forcing their clients to pay the inflated, arbitrary premiums of a saturated market.
But, having a gorgeous medieval backdrop and a five-star hotel doesn't actually mean anything if your clients and their guests are stuck at border control.
Oh, absolutely.
Which brings up the real bottleneck for these Dubai agencies, just the sheer friction of international logistics.
Yeah.
For international events, travel friction can kill a multi-million-dollar deal before it even gets off the mood board.
Because time and convenience are the ultimate luxury for this demographic.
Yeah.
If you ask a client to move 300 guests across the world, and half of them have to spend weeks navigating some Byzantine visa application process, the client will simply choose another destination. It's that simple.
Yeah, they just won't bother.
But the EventMag.me piece highlights a massive strategic advantage for Montenegro here. Entry is remarkably frictionless. For citizens of the UAE and Russia, which the author identifies as two of the most active outbound markets for this region, there are absolutely no visas required.
Wow. That is a staggering operational advantage. You instantly remove the biggest bureaucratic hurdle that usually plods along in the background of international planning.
You make the destination an easy, low-friction yes.
Exactly. And getting those guests physically in the country is straightforward too, with highly manageable flight connections routing through major hubs like Istanbul, Belgrade, or directly into Podgorica.
It keeps the door-to-door travel time within a totally acceptable window for luxury clients. And there is also a versatility play here that agencies are leveraging to expand their revenue windows.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, the conventional wisdom is that the Mediterranean is strictly a summer product, right? With the season running comfortably from maybe April to October.
Right. Nobody goes in January.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Montenegro offers a secondary, entirely distinct product in the winter. We were talking about mountain chalets, highly intimate interior spaces, and dramatic snow-covered landscapes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which allows a Dubai agency to sell a year-round destination portfolio rather than starving during the off-season.
That's incredibly smart. But if you're listening to this and thinking, sure, the aesthetics are great, the hotels are nice, and the flights are easy, but I would never risk my agency's reputation on a foreign legal system.
Well, you're not alone. That was my immediate thought, too.
It's a very valid concern.
Right. Moving from the glossy pitch to the gritty reality of execution is terrifying. Here's where it gets really interesting. If I'm sitting in an office in Dubai, the idea of navigating the legal red tape to get a couple officially legally married in a Balkan country sounds like a complete nightmare.
It sounds impossible. Yeah, I'd assume an agency would have to hire an entire team of local lawyers just to figure out the paperwork.
Well, that is the standard assumption whenever a business crosses borders, but the reality presented in the text reveals a completely different mechanism at play here. The article explicitly addresses the question of whether a marriage can be legally registered.
Yes.
And for most nationalities, particularly UAE and Russian citizens, The process isn't just possible, it is drastically simpler than almost anywhere in Western Europe.
Wait, I need to pause on that because the idea that it's simpler than Europe requires some real unpacking.
Yeah, it's wild. The documentation required is surprisingly minimal. You honestly only need 4 things.
Just 4.
Yep. A passport, a birth certificate, a document proving single status, and 2 witnesses. That's it.
You're kidding.
Nope. There are no mandatory residency periods, no endless interviews with local magistrates, and no complex bureaucratic loops designed to discourage foreigners.
Wow. I'd argue there's a very specific macroeconomic reason for that simplicity, though. Montenegro is actively using bureaucratic efficiency as an economic moat.
Oh, that's a brilliant way to frame it.
Right. Because they know they're competing against entrenched legacy destinations like Italy or France, which have centuries of rigid, immovable bureaucracy. By intentionally engineering a streamlined, frictionless legal framework for things like marriage and high net worth events, Montenegro is pulling foreign capital away from Western Europe.
They are making it incredibly easy to spend money there.
Exactly.
That is a highly astute way to look at it. They have optimized the legal API, so to speak, to attract exactly this type of business. And the most crucial detail for an agency trying to manage this process from thousands of miles away is that these 4 core documents can largely be prepared remotely. Yeah, you do not have to force your high net worth clients to fly back and forth to government offices in Montenegro just to get a stamp on a piece of paper. It removes a massive layer of friction for the client, and obviously it massively reduces the liability and stress for the agency.
Okay, so the venues are world-class, the borders are open, and the local government actually wants you there. But we still haven't solved the final, and frankly, the most dangerous problem for a service-based business, expanding overseas execution and quality control.
The hardest part.
Yeah. Clients who are accustomed to Dubai-level production have microscopic attention to detail. They expect absolute opulence and military-grade precision.
So how does an agency sitting in the Middle East actually guarantee that level of execution on the ground in the Bay of Kotor without taking on catastrophic risk?
Well, if an agency tries to parachute into a new country and build a supply chain entirely from scratch, they're taking on an unacceptable level of risk.
It's just a recipe for disaster. Exactly. The blueprint for rapid, safe expansion detailed in the eventmag.me deep dive is that you simply do not do it alone. You leverage a highly established local partner.
And the article uses the author's own company as the prime case study here, right?
Yes. Tatiana Presniakova's firm, Fashion Holidays.
Right. They've been producing high-end weddings and events in Montenegro since 2014, but crucially, they maintain a parallel operation in Dubai.
And that dual presence is the absolute secret sauce.
It has to be.
Yeah, they fundamentally understand the demanding psychology and aesthetic expectations of the Dubai client, while simultaneously possessing the granular Montenegrin ground game required to actually build the event.
Which goes far beyond just making a few friendly introductions to local vendors. I mean, the text emphasizes that a viable local partner must provide a full production stack.
A full production stack, yes.
I want to translate that concept into a universal business principle for a second because it's brilliant. It's essentially a plug-and-play API for the physical world.
Oh, I like that.
It's like writing software. If you build a new app, you don't build your own global payment processing system from scratch. You just plug into Stripe's API and let them handle the underlying complexity.
Right, you outsource the friction.
Exactly. In this scenario, the Dubai agency is plugging their client's specific aesthetic code and budget into Fashion Holidays' existing physical hardware in Montenegro.
That analogy captures the mechanics perfectly. By partnering with an established firm, the Dubai agency completely bypasses the most dangerous phase of expansion around that gown.
Yeah, you don't want to be learning on a millionaire's dime.
Definitely not. They aren't spending 2 years trying to figure out which local lighting vendor is reliable and which one will ruin the event. They are hoping that a beautiful venue's in-house catering team will magically understand the cultural nuances of a Middle Eastern or Russian client's menu requests.
Right, hope is eliminated from the equation entirely. Fashion Holidays covers the entire spectrum to ensure those standards are met. And a major point the article makes is that they handle decor and floor production in-house through their own dedicated studio.
Yes, the Married Dot Up studio.
Right. They aren't outsourcing the most visually critical element of the event to some random third party where quality control can easily slip.
Which is so important. Maintaining in-house production for the primary visual elements is a critical risk mitigation strategy. When you outsource, you are basically throwing a task over a wall and hoping it comes back correctly.
Which is terrifying in event production.
Right. But when a partner operates an in-house studio, they maintain a direct chain of custody over the final product. And beyond the decor, they bring a pre-vetted network of artists and entertainers accustomed to international productions, and they leverage a decade of established relationships with the top venues across the coast.
And there's one more layer to this API that I think might be the most underrated insurance policy of the entire operation.
What's that?
They provide bilingual coordination in Russian, English, and local Montenegrin languages. If you have ever tried to execute a complex project across a language barrier, you know that lost in translation isn't just a funny phrase. It is a fast track to a logistical disaster.
Oh, for sure.
Having a partner who fluently speaks the language of the client, the language of the agency, and the language of the local government is just invaluable.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the underlying philosophy of this eventmag.me article is really about brand protection.
Yeah.
You never want to treat high-paying clients as an experiment. If a Dubai agency tries to just wing it in a new country to capture a new revenue stream, the client will inevitably feel the friction. They will realize they are being used as a guinea pig to test the agency's new supply chain.
And nobody paying $1 million for an event is going to tolerate being a guinea pig.
Precisely. By utilizing an established integrated partner who has repeatedly stress-tested these specific logistical challenges for international clients, an agency fundamentally changes its sales pitch.
Right, it's a completely different conversation.
Yeah, they can confidently present Montenegro not as a risky experimental idea, but as a heavily vetted, qualified alternative to Italy or France. The agency can look the client in the eye and guarantee execution because they are plugging into an infrastructure that already functions at scale.
So practically speaking, if an operator is listening to this and wants to initiate this kind of geographical expansion, what is the actual first step? I mean, you don't just sign a partnership agreement over email and start selling.
No, you definitely don't. The article provides a very specific recommendation for the R&D phase.
Okay, what is it?
The mandatory first step is a familiarization visit. An agency cannot sell a premium destination without understanding the physical context. The author strongly suggests timing this visit for the spring or early autumn.
Why then?
Because it allows the agency to experience the destination under optimal conditions, away from the peak summer rush, so they can properly evaluate the logistics.
That makes total sense. You have to go walk the ground, you inspect the venue sight lines, you meet the local production team at the Merry.up studio, and you physically verify the infrastructure.
Exactly.
You have to internalize the product before you can genuinely sell the dream to a demanding client.
That familiarization trip is the catalyst. It converts a theoretical destination on a mood board into a tangible, de-risked product. And really, the synergy of accessible visa policies, genuine luxury properties, and a highly capable local B2B partner makes the entire expansion strategy structurally sound.
It really is a masterclass in how to pivot without destroying your brand equity in the process.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? If we zoom out from the gorgeous Adriatic coastlines and the bespoke floral arrangements, the core lessons from Tatiana Presniakova's insights in eventmag.me are universally applicable to almost any industry navigating a shifting landscape.
First, you have to expand your geography or your product offerings proactively. Do your research and build your new pipelines before your current market dries up, and expansion becomes a desperate, underfunded necessity.
Right. Don't wait for the fire.
Exactly.
Oh.
Second, you must seek out the undiscovered gems that solve your clients' fatigue with saturated markets. But you have to rigorously ensure those gems possess the underlying structural integrity to deliver a premium experience. Aesthetics without infrastructure is a total trap.
Such a dangerous trap.
And finally, leverage established local partners as your physical API. Do not let your ego convince you that you have to build everything from the ground up. Bypass the steep, highly dangerous learning curve by plugging into an operation that already speaks the language, understands the regulatory environment, and has the in-house talent to execute flawlessly on day one.
It is a ruthlessly efficient roadmap for capital-light expansion. The question presented by the article is not whether Montenegro works as a destination. The infrastructure proves that it does.
Right.
The true test for any agency is whether they have the humility to partner with the right local experts to deliver it properly. But as we analyze this highly successful blueprint for expansion, there is a broader dynamic at play here that requires some deeper critical thought.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this too. I'm looking at this expansion model. And while the blueprint is incredibly efficient, it feels like a bit of a double-edged sword. Like if
Yeah.
they succeed too well, don't they destroy the very asset they're selling?
That is exactly the friction point. If Montenegro's primary overarching selling point to these ultra luxury clients right now is that it feels undiscovered and exclusive compared to Italy or the Maldives, well, what happens in 10 years? If agencies successfully follow this exact playbook and the Bay of Kotor becomes the new standardized hub for GCC luxury weddings, does the very act of successfully developing and popularizing the destination eventually suffocate the quiet, undiscovered charm that made it so valuable to the ultra-rich in the first place? It is the ultimate paradox of luxury expansion. In your rush to sell the undiscovered, you inevitably put it on the map. It's something for you to think about.